Today we're going to celebrate carers. Traditionally, we think of carers as nurses or those in care of the elderly, but carers can be anybody, and you may be surprised by who is classed as a carer. Carers are people who provide unpaid care and support family members and friends. There are many reasons why people would become carers, and those reasons could be having a family member who has a disability, mental illness, chronic or terminal illness, a drug and alcohol issue, someone who has had an accident or is frail and elderly. Caring is difficult, and so is somebody who is being cared for, but today we're going to celebrate the carers in the world. Whether you are a carer or someone who is cared for, celebrating the carers in our world is certainly something that we all should do. As someone who has a carer, you can celebrate your carer in many different ways. One of the best ways to do this is to simply acknowledge all your carer does for you. As someone who is cared for, this can actually feel difficult. The person being cared for may feel resentful, sad, or even embarrassed about being cared for. This is completely normal. It is hard to rely on someone to do even the smallest tasks that we've been used to doing ourselves. In thanking a carer, it may bring our attention to this fact and how much the carer actually does do for us. This can feel both sad and humbling for many people. However, if you are in a position of being cared for, then please know that you acknowledging your carer and all they do for you will help go a long way to celebrating and showing your deep gratitude and thanks. As a carer, being celebrated in this way, even with such a small act of acknowledgement, can feel humbling and greatly appreciated. Carers do so much work, many times without realizing it, and having that appreciation goes a long way. Carers are from every walk of life, many different ages and many different relationships to the person they are caring for. As an unpaid carer, you do it from love, commitment, and a deep sense of serving. A friend caring for another friend, for a neighbour, or someone in their community is something that should be appreciated and celebrated. Apart from giving such simple acknowledgement, gratitude and thanks, others can also repay the carer by giving them some care and attention. Many times a carer can feel lost in that position of caring, lost in all they do for themselves, their daily lives, and for others. Having someone do something for them can feel both challenging and relieving. Challenging because many carers are so often used to doing everything themselves and having others lean on them rather than asking for help. So giving back to a carer is something greatly appreciated. Sometimes the dynamics of a relationship are changed greatly when one person takes on a caring role. This can be difficult for all involved. An example of this is when a husband, wife or partner takes on the caring role for their significant other. This changes the relationship drastically. This can also cause great tension, which is completely normal and natural. If a husband is injured and suddenly needs his wife to step into a full-time caring role, then the relationship in their marriage changes. If a wife is chronically ill and the husband is her primary carer, then once again the relationship changes. Relationships change and grow over time, and putting in a caring aspect into the marriage or partnership will bring frustration, resentment, guilt, and also great appreciation, deeper love and commitment. If a child becomes a carer for a parent, then the relationship dynamic changes drastically, as the child then takes on the role of guiding, responsibility and caring. If both the child and the parent are both adults, then this can lead to carers having to see their parents in a different light, as their parents may be vulnerable, sad, resentful, and still wish to be responsible for their own lives. It is a very delicate balance for the carer to administer care and also treat their parent with the same relationship dynamic. Carers have it tough. And part of celebrating the carers in our society, it is important to acknowledge the silent carers in our community, those who care for others in their everyday lives, and yet it may seem that nobody notices this. Those who do the grocery shopping for an elderly friend each week, those who come home after work and care for their elderly mother, those who care for an adult child with a disability. There are so many different examples of carers. It is so prevalent that they cannot all be named. They are put into a generic box of the word carer. But being a carer is so much more than that. It can be fulfilling, frustrating, joyous, guilt-ridden, filled with love, filled with dread, feel rewarding and sometimes overwhelming. As a carer, it is so difficult to look after yourself at times, and yet it is so very important. We cannot celebrate carers without carers celebrating themselves. As part of looking after yourself, your mental health must take a priority. As a carer, making anything about yourself, especially as a priority, may feel impossible at times, and the reality is it can be. However, your mental health is such an integral part of looking after yourself and your ability to cope as a carer and all that it demands of you. Looking after your mental health is a broad and encompassing spectrum, but always, if you need help, please reach out and get it. Help is available. Speak to a professional. Speak to your friends. Speak to other carers who have some idea of what you are going through. If you can, take some time out for yourself. Do something you love to do whenever you are able to do it. Celebrate not only your role as a carer, but also the role to the person you are caring for. If you are caring for your husband or wife, don't forget that relationship in amongst the caring. If you are caring for a friend, remember what you love to do with your friend, not just the caring part. How do you look after a loved one if they are a carer? Acknowledge their feelings and their reality. The reality of caring for others is difficult, time-consuming, overwhelming, and also joyous, filled with love and great contentment. If you have a friend or family member who is a carer, then celebrate them. Celebrate all they are. Celebrate them as a person. Yes, they are a carer, but they are so much more than that. It is easy to forget some of the other aspects of ourselves and others in the carer role. If you have a friend or family member who is a carer, then giving them someone to talk to, without judgment or advice, can be a valuable gift. Taking them out somewhere to celebrate with a lunch or just a cuppa is a fabulous gesture. Just a side note, if you do want to make a lunch date with someone who is a carer, please give a little bit of leeway with specific times and dates. Caring is an unpredictable job at times, and they may need to cancel or postpone. Guilt and resentment are part of the negative aspects that can niggle at a carer and for someone being cared for. These feelings are completely normal, and please remember, always get help if you need it to help you deal with these very normal emotions. As a carer, you may feel guilt if you take some time out for yourself, or go somewhere and do something that the person you love and care for cannot do. This guilt is completely natural. Sometimes this guilt can stop carers from taking a break and doing something for themselves, and this can lead to resentment. This is very normal as well. After all, many times for both the person being cared for and the carer, life has changed dramatically. Priorities have changed. Relationships have changed. As someone being cared for, this guilt can be because they now have to rely on a friend or partner or loved one to do the things for them that they were perfectly able to do for themselves, or even helped their carer do before they needed such help. Guilt and resentment are also perfectly normal. Please get help with dealing with these issues if you need to. Part of the solution to both of these issues is communication without judgment or blame. After all, it is not the fault of the person ill, injured, or needing care, and it is not the fault of the carer. However, communicating your feelings on both sides of this new relationship dynamic will go a long way to celebrating and acknowledging the cared and the carer. And remember, the person being cared for is so much more than the injury or illness that has left them in such a position. Remember why you became friends, why you married, what you loved about your relationship and loved one. And the same goes for the person being cared for. Remember, the person caring for you is much more than just your carer. They are your wife, your husband, your friend, parent, or loved one. Getting help physically and giving yourself some respite is imperative as a carer. Celebrate yourself as a person as well as a carer, and gift yourself some time for yourself. Everyone needs time for themselves, especially carers. And the person you are caring for may also need some time to themselves, some different people to speak to and be with. There is no reason why you cannot give yourself the gift of time. Going forward as a carer means celebrating who you are as a whole, and yes, that does include who you are as a carer. Someday you may not need to be a carer anymore. For example, if your husband had an injury and he recovers after a year, then perhaps your time as a carer for the moment may lessen or not be as needed as much. But that time will have changed you and your relationship forever, hopefully for the good. If you are a long-term carer, or like many people I have known, you care for many people throughout your life, then please acknowledge all you have done, look after yourself, and know how you can go forward with peace and joy and contentment in yourself and the part of yourself that is a carer. Many carers do so for the love of it and do not expect any accolades at all, but that does not mean that we should not celebrate the role of the carer and those who do it in our society. The sheer number of people who are carers for others would surprise you. I believe it is a very under-recognised role in our society. Celebrating your role as a carer can and should be part of the role, and recognising, talking about, and educating people about carers is so very important. As a carer, you may wish to celebrate your role to show yourself how it is valued. You may wish to write out your journey as a carer, how the role came about, the difficulties, the joys, and how it has changed you as a person. Celebrate all those in your society who help others in their many different roles and aspects of carers. And if you are a carer, then thank you. Thank you for what you do every day. We celebrate you. Thank you for reading and joining me, and blessed be to you all.